One of the jobs I like to do on classic cars is fit a battery isolator. I've gone through this fitting of these before on the Austin pickup. If you want to check that video out, it shows you a bit more detail. So I won't bore you again going through it. So I've already fitted the switch down in here, which is a standard place for an MGB, so you can just reach behind the seat to get it. So I've got a couple of cables made up, battery cables. Okay, that's got the battery cutoff fitted, it's just there. So just turn like that, and that puts power on. And down there, you can take the key out if you want. Battery's in. So it's just a good precaution to fit in the car. It means if you're storing it, there's no power constantly on. Just isolates it. So that's another job done. Okay, that's just the battery cover. It's a little bit bashed and bent, so I'm going to straighten up a little bit and give it a clean up and give it a coat of paint as well, just before it goes back on. That looks a bit better. I'll get some paint on that and we'll get it fitted again. Okay, I've put a couple of coats of black paint on that. So that immediately looks 10 times better. One improvement, just get those rubber bumpers off. That was quite easy. It was just a couple of bolts there, a couple of bolts there. I think there's supposed to be bolts in here, but they weren't there. So they maybe snapped off. Quite possible they've snapped off. So that was relatively easy. Front panel looks fairly solid. Not bad. The wings around those lights look alright. That's good. Yeah, not bad. Okay, we'll have a look at this back bumper, see if we can get it off as well. Hopefully it'll be as simple as the other one was. See one bolt there on that side. And the same on that side. So and then there'll be a couple underneath, I think. Not sure if there's any on the ends. I have taken rubber bumpers off MGBs before, but it was a long time ago, so there's no way I can remember. Anyway, we'll have a look. Don't know if you can quite see that. Somewhere up in there should be a bolt or nut sticking through, and there's definitely not one. Found a bolt in the middle. Yep, that's definitely pulls the bumper on. There we go. That was pretty simple to come off. Again, half the bolts are missing, which makes life a bit easier for taking it off. Bit of a garden growing under there. Some rust there. That's one of the main differences with the conversions. On the rubber bumper, it's cut off straight there, as you can see. On the chrome bumper, that body panel extends around to follow the contour of the light. So if you do a conversion, you've got to put this little panel on there or make one. But I'm still thinking about that. You can also see this hole in the floor that I was talking about earlier. Just there, there's a crack, some rot. So I'll need to cut, I'll clean it all off and just see how bad that is. But probably just drop a patch in somewhere here. I'll have a good poke around in the boot, just make sure the back panel's fine and make sure there's no other rot. If there is, I'll just have to, there's a bit rust there, which I guess if I poked it that hard enough it'd probably go through. So I might have to address that. But yeah, we'll get it cleaned up and see what's what. Just try and make a bit of space because I want to take this door off, and that's in the way. One of the great things about old cars, it's quite often done to start. This one's been sat about, I haven't used this at all for a long time. I think the fuel's not very good. And I moved it the other day, or the other week, from that garage to this garage. And there's a spark there, there's fuel there, it just wouldn't go, but I think the fuel's gone off. And what I had to do was take the air filters off and just squirt a bit of fresh fuel in, and it fired straight up. So I'm just going to try that again. I'm only moving it because I need the space to get that door open comfortably and do a bit of welding there. It's always the same, you could do with a bigger garage, but make do with what you've got. Okay, so I don't know, I think it's just a bad fuel. I squirt a little bit of clean fuel in one carburetor there with the air filter off, and it's that fire straight up and then it runs. It's just lack of use and the fuel's old. But anyway, the main thing was to get out of the way for now, because what I want to do today is I want to take this door off. So I just needed that extra little bit of space to get that out. I'm going to pull all the trim off here, take this door off, and we're going to grind back this rust and just see how bad it is. It's usually just where the bottom of the door meets the skin, so you've got this sort of thing going on here. And I'm looking to sort of replace a piece there. When the door's out the way, I've got this bit on the sill here, which it's definitely got a hole there and a lot of rust here. But once I dig into that, we'll probably find that I'll end up doing 2 panels, because there should be a seam there. But we'll get that cleaned up once I get the door out of the way. Okay, so to get this door off, on the hinge there's 3 screws here, quite large sort of Phillips headed screws. So I need to get the door trim off to get at them. Also, if I'm doing any repairs, I need to get all this out of the way. So it's basically, this top panel's held on a couple of screws, the door lock, the handle, the window winder, and then there's just clips in under there. Hopefully they'll come out okay without breaking. They usually do. But yeah, that's basically it. So it's straightforward enough to get the door trim off. So we'll start with the door handle. That little trim just slides up and slides down. The earlier cars are different. They have different setup, different handles and things. I'll get this handle out of the way if I can. In order to get these off, if they've been on a number of years, I use an impact driver, so it's a bit of an old-fashioned. There's modern versions of things. There's even one you can get on a windy drill, which is quite interesting looking. Basically, you smack that with a hammer and it turns that screw as it impacts in. And if they've been on a long time, that usually loosens up a little bit. One trick that I use for these, if you've got a windy chisel, you put the pointed tip on and then put the tip right inside the centre of the screw so it doesn't damage the cross part. A bit of impact might just send it with the hammer and shake it loose. It does quite often work. Quite noisy. I've got them all moving, so I'm just going to work them back and forward with a bit of lubrication on there, and it might do the trick. The drawers actually dropped, so they've come loose. You can find an attachment for these to go on the end there. It has a Phillips head on, so you're sort of impacting it, but it has a handle and you turn it as you go. I haven't got one, but I've seen them. That would be perfect for these. Got that one. I think it's still okay. Set of speaker wires in there. Some interesting connections. Okay, let's get the door off. Get on the bench and we'll have a little look, see how bad the rust is. Okay, so that's what we're up against. Perfectly normal on an MGB. So I'm hoping that the metal along here is quite good. But it'll be some filler if they filled all that. But we'll just grind it back, see what's solid, and then we'll make a panel to fit. Just want to protect the glass a little bit. I might end up taking the quarter light of the glass out. But I just want to see the extent of this damage here to see whether I'm just repairing the bottom or whether I'm going to go for a whole skin. So at the moment I can leave that on. Just stops the sparks landing on there. Now the door was a good fit while it was in there, apart from the rust. It fitted actually quite nice. Gaps were good. Because MGBs usually the gaps are quite bad, especially if somebody's put a door skinner on or a door or a quarter panel. So, because this one's good, I want to get the new panel back in the same place. So I'm going to just take a few measurements from here to there. Because when I put my panel on the bottom of here, if I get it 2 or 3 mil this way or 2 or 3 mil that way, it's going to mess with the gap on the door. So if I can take a measurement from here, it'll give me a reference point for the new panel to sit nice. Hopefully, it doesn't all work like that, but we'll give it a go. Both the measurements are different, so I don't know for sure, but either, if you imagine that's straight, these doors probably taper slightly, about 4 mil. But it fitted nice all the way along the sill, so I'm just going to put it back where it was because it fitted well. It could be the sill was matched to the door, who knows. So normally I would use like a flat wheel on the grinder for that, but I hadn't seen one of these before, but a friend of mine was using on a spot him in his workshop. I was just asking about it and he showed us. So basically it takes the paint off and doesn't gouge the metal too badly. So he's given me one to try, and if it's any good I'll buy a few more. So I'll give that a go on here, because basically it doesn't matter if damaging down here, but up here I don't want to gouge the metal too much, so I'll get my mask and we'll give it a try.